Hey guys! In this tutorial I will show you how to create a letter in typography poster step by step. Before we get started, you can download the tutorial files by the link below the video for free. You can support my channel and access exclusive tutorials and presets on my Patreon. You can check it out by the link below. Now let's grab our pencils and get started. I have a square canvas with the dimensions of 2000 by 2000 pixels. DPI is set to 300. First I'm going to change the background color. Let's tap here and select the first background color from the palette. Then open the color palette again and pick ribbon color. Now let's open the brush set and select vintage ribbon stamp. This stamp, as well as textured snowflake, is from my Christmas stamps, which is a part of the big Christmas bundle. Going back, and I will set the size to 27%. Then tap on the canvas. Now let's click on the arrow and activate snapping in the settings. I will center the ribbon and then move it up, just a little bit. After that I will duplicate the layer and change its blending mode. You can try different options and see which one works best for you. I will select difference, but then I will lower the opacity of the layer to 70%. Now let me go back to the previous layer, open adjustments and select hue saturation brightness. I will set hue to 47% and saturation to 67%. We will get some color variation and the texture will be seen more. Now we can add the text. So I'm going to the top layer and selecting text color number 2. Let's go to Actions, Add, then Add Text. I will type the word Cheers with all capital letters. Select it and set the font to Georgia. I will keep it in regular style and increase the size a little to match it with the ribbon. Let's place it on the ribbon without snapping. Then switch to warp and try to make it follow the shapes. I will be dragging the sides up and down until it matches. I want all these arcs to be parallel to each other, so the text looks more organic on the ribbon. We can also stretch it a little to the sides like this. Let's deselect and check what we got. If you are not fully satisfied with the result, you can finish it by using Liquify and adjust letters one by one. I think it looks quite nice, so I will now duplicate this layer with the text, go to the one below, and lower the brightness. I'll set it to none. I will move it a little upper and apply Gaussian blur, just a little bit, around 2 or 3%. Now let's go and lower the opacity a little. 85% will work. This is almost ready. I just want to add some subtle outlines on the ribbon. Let's continue using the slide color, create a new layer, and go to Ink Inset from Procreate. From here I will select a brush called Inka. The size is set to 5%. I will start outlining the edges without applying too much pressure, so we will get these thin textured lines. I will also try to separate the parts from the ribbon from each other. So I will draw here, also on this edge, another curve, and go to the opposite side. I'm not going to outline it completely, just a few lines. This brush is very pressure responsive, so we can work with the thickness by applying low or high pressure. Maybe I will make this edge a little more visible. Like this. We can go and group all these layers. So I will select them and click Group. Since we started with the text, let's continue and finish the phrase. Before we write the words, I'd like to import an external font. For that, I will go to a website called mistyfonts.com. I will search for a font called Autumn in November. Actually, this font can be found in many other different websites, but this is the original creator's website. It is better to download it from here. Let's click Download Font, so we can use it in personal projects. Once it is downloaded, let's click on it and unzip the file. From this folder we need to pick a file with TTF extension. Click here and import it to Procreate. Now let's go to Actions and add text. I will write to the new year, starting with a small letter. Let's select it and pick the font that we just downloaded. I will make it bigger. Around 50 points. And I will also make the distance between the lines smaller. It can be done in leading. Let's also center it and place it under the word cheers. Approximately like this. Now I will go and duplicate this layer. Go to the one below, to Adjustments, and click Gaussian Blur. The layer will be rasterized, so we can slide to the right and set Gaussian Blur to 10%. Now let's go to Selection, pick Automatic and tap on the background. You may need to adjust the selection threshold if it doesn't work properly. For that you will need to slide your pencil to the left and right. Once we have the selection, we need to invert it. Then I will click on the arrow, go to Materials and select Wattle Bird brush. Make the size big and just paint on the letters. We will get the sticker effect. Now let's go back to the layer that we created first and change its color. This layer is still editable, so we can click Edit Text, tap to select it and change the color to text color number 1. This is the result we will get. We can go and merge these two layers. Then also transform it using Warp. I will drag the middle part up and down on the sides, so it will have the shape of an arc. After that, I'd like to add the texture on the letters. Let's pick Color right from here and create a new layer. I will use inking brush that is called Thylacine, but I will adjust a couple of settings. Let's go to the brush, open the shape settings and set rotation to 0. Then go to Properties and enable Orient to Screen. Click Done. Let's set the brush size to 3% and apply it on all vertical lines on the letters. I will just press and make a short stroke. Also rotating the canvas, keeping the lines vertical. Let's continue. This one. And on the last word. Let's also make it vertical and draw on the vertical lines. Now it is ready. Let's merge these two layers. Duplicate. Go to the one below. And set brightness to none to make the layer pure black. I will also move it diagonally, just a little bit, to create the shadow. I think we don't even have to blur it, because due to the dark background it is slightly thin, but still it works. I'm not going to use this brush anymore, so we can reset the settings. Now that we have the text, we can create the composition around it. I'm not merging these two layers yet, in case we want to change the opacity of the shadow. I will just create a new layer above. Go to the color palette and select ribbon color. Now let's go to the bundle for this tutorial, and here you can see a few stems with folk elements. Actually, they're very easy to draw. I just wanted you to have a choice, and you can also use these elements in your future folk and lettering designs. I will pick the first folk element. Its size is set to 7%. We can simply tap. I will place it here. Then alpha lock the layer, so we can shade it. First I will pick text color number 2. Go to Sketch and Set from Procreate and select Oil Pastel. We can set the size to around 5% and tap a few times inside the shape. After that I will pick shading color number 1, which is this orange, and tap more on top, mostly in these corners. Maybe just a few times at the bottom. After that I'll create a new layer, tap and hold to go back to the previous color, and go to Calligraphy Set. Let's now duplicate monoline brush, open it, and set spacing to maximum in stroke path. Go to Properties, and set minimum size to none. We will get a brush like this. Let's just set the size to around 5 or 4%, and draw a couple of arcs inside. They can be adjusted. Now it is ready. We can draw a few leaves on the sides. Actually, I will draw only one leaf and then duplicate it. Merging these two layers and creating another one. Let's go to the color palette and select leaf color number 1. From the inking set I will select Technical Pen. If you struggle with drawing smooth lines, you can always go and increase the amount of streamline in stabilization and also the amount of stabilization in the same setting. Now it will be very smooth. Let's keep it very simple. So I will draw the first curve with an angle and a similar one on the opposite side. Let's connect them and then fill the shape. Now I will create a layer above this one, clip it, and select the other leaf color on the right. I will just draw a line in the center, outline it on the left side, close it, and fill. Now let me alpha lock this layer for the shading, and I will pick the previous color. Let's open recent brushes and select All Pastel. I will just tap a few times on the leaf to add the texture to it. I'm tapping close to this edge. When it is ready, I will select text color number 2, Inka brush, and draw a couple of lines inside, pressing more in the center. Now let's go back to the layer we created first. Also alpha lock it. And select leaf shading color, which is the darkest one here. First I will also select oil pastel. And make a few strokes. For the texture, I will shade it more on the tips. Then switch to Inka brush and make a few strokes inside the leaf for the pattern. First I will make them big and a few shorter lines that will go from the edge inwards. We have one leaf that we can now duplicate. We can merge these two layers, duplicate the leaf, scale one of them and rotate. I will place it on the right side, under the big one. Let's also merge these two, duplicate again, flip it horizontal and move to the left with magnetics, so it goes strictly horizontal. Let's also keep the same distance from the central shape. Let's continue adding more elements, so we can merge these layers and create another one. In the color palette I will select leaf color number 1. Go to the stamps and select folk element number 7. Here the size is set to 13%. Let's tap on the canvas. Now we can shade it, but I will do it on a separate layer that I will create above and clip. Let's start with leaf shading color number 3. I will select oil pastel brush and add strokes on this side. Also a few times on the stem. Now let's change the brush to Inka and also switch to another color. Let it be leaf shading number 1. Here we can make the size bigger, around 10%, and just make a few lines that will repeat the shape of the leaf. I'm changing the pressure to get thinner or thicker lines. Maybe a few smaller strokes here. And then I will change the color to leaf shading number 2, which is this light one. Make a few more strokes. On the stem and on these small parts. Alright, I think this will be enough, but now I'd like to change the layers blending mode. It can be color burn or linear burn, they will look approximately same. Now I will merge these two layers and place the stem properly. I will remove magnetics and move it this way. Place it very close to the ribbon and to the text. Go slightly below. Now let's create another layer. Pick this light color and change the stem for folk element number 6. I've set the size to 5%. So we can now tap on the canvas. I will place it here on the stem. Maybe rotate a little clockwise. Let's shade it on another layer that will be clipped. For the shading I will select fat nozzle texture color and the brush with the same name. It can be found in spray paints. The size here is set to 5%. I will just make a stroke around the shape. We will get the splatter effect inside. After we did that, let's go to Eraser and set it to Whittlebird brush from Materials. It is very soft, and I think we can use it at around 2 or 3%. I will just erase the edge all around without applying too much pressure. What we can do now is merge these two layers, duplicate the shape and place it on these two short stems. I will also rotate it and flip, so it looks slightly different. This one will stay here. Then I will duplicate the first one and place it on this stem, just like this. Instead of merging the layers, I will select them all and group. Then duplicate the group, flip horizontal, and move to the right with magnetics. Place it on the same distance from the ribbon and from the right side. This is now also done. Let's draw two bigger elements at the bottom. I will first create a new layer and pick leaf color number 1. In the stems I will select folk elements number 5. Set the size to 20% and tap at the lower part of the canvas. Let me move it without magnetics. We can actually place it this way, so it almost intersects the text. Now I'll create a layer above it and clip. Let's add shading. First I will select leaf shading color and oil pastel brush from recent brushes. With this brush I will start tapping on the left side, also on the stem. Make the size smaller and tap on the left side of these parts. After that I will switch to leaf color number 2. First shade it this way, trying to blend the colors. Lower the size and apply the same color on the right side of these elements. Slightly on the stem. Now I will grab a eraser and set it to Inka. I will make a few strokes erasing the texture on the big leaf and on the smaller parts. Here the thickness also depends on the pressure. Let's continue shading. And right now I will select leaf shading color, that is this dark one. In the brushes I will also pick Inka. I will set the size to 7% and make the stroke along the edge first. On this side. And add a few lines inside the leaf. On the dark part. I'll make a stroke here and this way. On the smaller shapes. These lines can go down. And after that I will switch to text color number 2. Draw on the right edge first. applying low pressure and making the lines dashed. I will draw on the right side here. Since this layer is not clipped, the lines may go a little outside. And they will also work as a highlight. I think this is enough. I'm merging these two layers and creating a layer below. We have the right color selected. I will just pick technical pen and draw shapes from here. It will be ovals. Drawing the last one, which will be the smallest. Now let's shade these shapes quickly, same as we did with these parts. So I'm creating a new layer, clipping, and selecting fat nozzle texture color and brush. I will make a stroke around it on each part. Then pick eraser set to Whittlebird and erase it on one edge with the size set to 2%. It will get volume and highlight. We can now merge all the layers for this shape and duplicate it. I will also flip it horizontal, activate magnetics and drag it to the left side, placing it symmetrically. Now we can merge these two layers and drag it down to place it under the shadow. If you remember, we kept these berries on separate layers. So let's go to one of the groups, open it, and duplicate one of the shapes. I will drag it out of the group and then place it on top. We don't need magnetics. If you don't have enough distance here, there is always a way to make the size of the shape smaller. I will rotate it, then duplicate again, drag it to the right side, also rotate it, duplicate one more time, and this time without magnetics, place it between, so it makes an arc. Let's merge these layers. I'll place it this way. Now I will duplicate these three berries and also duplicate the shape. Drag it up and merge these two layers. Flip it vertical, activate magnetics and drag it down to place it between these two branches. This way. Now the design has some shape, but we need to work more on it. So I will do this. I'll create a layer and place it right above the background. Then I will select the color for the circle, go to calligraphy and pick original monoline brush. I will just draw a circle. Tap to make it perfect and fill it. After that we can scale it and adjust the location. I will remove magnetics and center it. After that I'll create a layer above it. First select ribbon color and Inka brush. I will draw another circle around with low pressure, so the line will be dashed. I will also tap to make it perfect, scale it, and move. I will place it this way, maybe make it even bigger, and also try to center it. Now let's draw a similar circle, but with a lighter color. Or to make it faster, we can duplicate this one, scale it uniformly, move, and then change its color. For that I will alpha lock the layer, pick text color number 2, go back to the layer and click Fill Layer. I'd like to add more details, so I will create a new layer and select the color that is called Details. Now I will go to Calligraphy and pick Adjusted Monoline. I'll set the size to 14% and draw a few arcs around the circles. I will just start drawing, then wait a second to activate Quick Shape tool, where we can adjust the arcs. I'll draw another one on the right side and also edit it. Let's draw them at the bottom as well. Here I will make the biggest one, also wait a second and click Edit Shape. I will make it parallel to the circle and then draw the last one. This time I will make it shorter. This is also done. Let's try to fill the gaps between the shapes inside these circles. So we can totally merge these layers, create another one, and I will select text color number 2. Let's go to the design brush set and select textured snowflakes. I will be changing the size and tapping in the gaps. For example, I will place a bigger one here and a few more. They can be actually located right on the circles. I will tap in this space as well. For the other shapes I will create another layer. Select leaf color number 1 and pick Inka brush. I will just draw a random circle somewhere here, make it perfect, and then fill it. After that I will alpha lock and shade it quickly. Selecting leaf color number 2 and oil pastel from Sketching. I'll just make a few strokes to add the texture. Then select this light color, get the previous brush and make a few strokes inside. We can also try to use monoline, that is dashed. I will just set the size to 3% and make another stroke inside. I'll duplicate the layer, scale it uniformly, and place it this way. To change its color, I will go to Adjustments and adjust the hue. I'll set it to 56%. We can also try to duplicate these berries. So let's find them in the group. Duplicate. Make them smaller and place them in the gaps. Just a few. We can also rotate them. Now that we have all these bigger shapes, we can add smaller ones. We can already flatten some groups and merge some layers. For example, this can stay on one layer. And now I will create a new one. I will first go to select Inka brush and draw a few rings. Make them perfect by tapping. And they have different size and different thickness. You can place them however you want and even draw some other shapes. Alright. Now let me select ribbon color and change the brush to technical pen. This brush is also pressure sensitive, so we can use it. I will set the size to 9% and draw a vertical line, first applying low pressure, then increasing it, and then lowering it again. Then I will do the same horizontally. We will get shape like this. I will draw a few similar shapes. Finally, I will go to materials and pick Wattle bird. Let's make the size small enough, around 1%, and just start tapping on the canvas. We can also tap outside the circle. Now let's change the color. Select color leaf 1. Tap more. Inside and outside the circle. Now I will select the slide color and make the size very low. Continue tapping. The design is almost ready. I will just go and create a layer above the circle. Pick snow color. Now let's go to the brush set and select snow brush. This brush is also from my Christmas pack. I will set the size to around 25 or 26% and start making the strokes on the canvas. I'm doing it by lifting the pencil up. And now the design is totally ready. If you enjoyed this tutorial, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. You can also access more tutorials and brush sets on my Patreon. Thank you for watching and see you in the next video.